and welcome to Friday Newsday, your #1 resource for the entire week's worth of VR news. This has got to be one of the most exciting news days I've made in a very long time. First off, Bigscreen just announced a brand new VR headset, the Bigscreen Beyond 2, and I've actually got it right here, so we're going to talk all about that, but that's far from it. Meta has finally given full Quest camera access to developers, something that legitimately opens up an entire new universe of possibilities for VR, basically unlocking the true potential of the Quest, and I don't mean that lightly. And so we're going to talk about camera access, what this means for the entire platform moving forward, and I've even built my own crazy trippy demos so you can see exactly why I'm excited. We've got a lot to cover, so let's just get right into the news. Fresh off the press release, Bigscreen announced a brand new VR headset this week. This is the Bigscreen Beyond 2. But before we talk about Beyond 2 and some initial impressions, I want to give just a little background. A couple years ago, Bigscreen launched the Beyond, the world's smallest VR headset, featuring Steam VR tracking, 72 to 90 Hz refresh rate, and 2560 by 2560 micro OLED displays, all in a form factor that literally fits inside of most other VR headsets' eye boxes. There were, however, some pretty huge trade-offs, especially for people coming from, say, the Valve Index. The field of view on Beyond was noticeably smaller, losing anywhere from 10 to 20 degrees depending on the person, and, well, arguably the bigger one, the Beyond, for better or worse, could only be ordered one way, as a custom fit using a 3D face scan. Basically, Bigscreen would manufacture the headset with a face cushion custom molded specifically to your face with factory set IPD based on your scan, meaning you couldn't really share the headset or sell it unless they share the exact same face as you. Now, to be fair, as I've said in my previous videos, I really enjoyed my Beyond one. It became my daily driver for PC VR, but for many people, these limitations were complete deal breakers, which brings us to the Bigscreen Beyond 2. And I'm not gonna lie, I was legitimately surprised when Bigscreen told me this was coming and then showed me the specs, as Beyond 2 fixes almost every major complaint both I and the community had. So to start out, the Beyond 2 has the same 2560 by 2560 micro OLED displays as its predecessor, which I'm actually cool with. Even with my 4090, I'm rarely at 100% rendered resolution just to save some frames. The real breakthrough, however, comes in their new optic stack, containing totally new lenses, bringing the Beyond 2's field of view to an advertised 116 degrees diagonal, actually beating out the Quest 3's field of view and coming very close to the Index, with the Index still slightly beating out the Beyond 2 in mainly vertical FOV. But field of view is far from the only change. While Bigscreen is still offering the headset as a custom-made, tailored to you device, it seems that they also realize that even their totally custom approach just doesn't accommodate everyone's use cases. And so, almost as exciting as a much wider FOV, Beyond 2 actually has adjustable IPD, set by a little screw on the side. But additionally, in case you don't want to get a face scan, or it's just not your personal taste to have the headset rest on your face, which I'm slowly joining that camp, I think, or you just want to share the headset, they're also adding a new halo mount inspired by night vision goggles, allowing you to adjust eye relief and tilt. The new headset also comes in new colors, coming in clear, what they call nuclear orange, and the standard black. And as someone that prefers my tech in any color as long as it's clear, I'm definitely in approval. But here's the kind of crazy part. For one, the Beyond 2 is actually somehow 16% lighter than its predecessor at 107 grams, but there's actually going to be two versions of the headset available, the standard Beyond 2 and their new flagship, the Beyond 2E. And that's right, finally, we're getting a micro OLED, super small form factor, base station tracked, eye tracking capable headset that's native Steam VR. I don't know how long I've wanted to say that in a sentence, but here we go. Beyond 2 is apparently available for order, like now, with the first batch shipping in April, the base unit with custom gasket and everything starting at $1,019, and the Beyond 2E starting at $1,219. Still a very expensive device, but if you're a Beyond 1 owner, Bigscreen is offering a reduced price, shaving off $200 as the strap, cable, link box, and cushion are all backwards compatible. Something else that I thought was really cool and kind of impressive, especially given the way most companies companies treat people nowadays. Bigscreen has actually been holding on to Beyond 1 orders for a while to secretly upgrade them to the new headset, so that people don't order and receive their old headset like a week before the new one launches. Yeah, I just thought that was cool. Now, I'm currently working on a full in-depth review that will be out as soon as it's done. I like to make sure I have at least a few hundred hours in something before I review it, but I wanted to share just a couple quick impressions after using it for the past couple weeks. First off, the field of view improvement is genuinely impressive, but I think what's more impressive is how Bigscreen has improved lens artifacts like glare and internal reflections. It's pretty fantastic. However, it's not entirely perfect, and the very edges of the lenses still have slight color fringing or chromatic aberration when viewed at extreme angles, something that I'll elaborate on whenever I make the review. That being said, having used my original Beyond as my daily driver for PC VR, the Beyond 2 so far feels like taking something I already liked and making almost everything about it better, with some new quirks that are worth mentioning. Like, for example, while adjustable IPD is a huge improvement and I'm glad it has it, I can already see this method of adjustment potentially being a problem for people, as getting your IPD exactly right for both eyes takes some practice and patience. And if it's not right, you'll be running into some pretty big issues. And so I'll be diving much deeper into resolution, image quality, also testing out the audio strap in my full review. So I guess do the YouTube thing, subscribe and hit that bell if you want to see it as soon as it drops. But I think I should also mention, for people that are thinking about the Beyond 2 or maybe Valve's next upcoming headset, word around the block is that you won't have to wait too long for a Valve announcement. So yeah. But now let's talk about something on the other end of VR. So over the years, the Quest platform as a whole has received a few really huge incremental updates that have really shaped the platform moving forward. Looking back, I see this as the big PC VR update, when Facebook added the link cable. Another one was hand tracking or pass-through or scene mesh, and I think you get what I mean. There have been multiple times where Meta has expanded the Quest platform with entirely new capabilities. And oh boy, the newest capability is a big one, and in some ways, I'd almost say it's the biggest one, as Meta has finally opened full camera access to developers. And arguably, this update is probably the most impactful Meta has ever added, especially over time, as it truly unlocks the real potential that the Quest has always had, but it's never been accessible. But okay, that sounds like a lot of hyperbole, a lot of big words. Quest gets camera access. What does this actually mean? Obviously, the Quest has had cameras on it since the beginning, and we've had pass-through for a long time, so what's changed? And well, I think the best way to understand and to explain this is to just give my own anecdotal example. When I first got into VR game development on Quest a couple years ago, I had a ton of ideas in my head specifically regarding the mixture of virtual objects and real camera feeds, or pass-through. This is basically mixed reality. And I always thought about how incredibly trippy and cool it would be to have virtual things interact with your real space, and to have your real space mix seamlessly with virtual reality. I always imagine it as an interactive Snapchat filter, but instead of looking through your phone, which is incredibly unimmersive, your entire reality is open for augmentation via a headset. And under that line of thinking, hypothetically, you can kind of do anything. Games could use real context of things in your room. A couch could become a race car, or even on the simple side of things, a coffee cup or an object could be identified, tracked, and modified, all in headset. But when I finally tore open the hood, read the documentation, and got into Unity to build some of these ideas and experiment, I was incredibly disappointed. Because, well, about all of what I just described was impossible. Not necessarily because the hardware couldn't handle it, but because until this week, developers had absolutely zero access to any of the camera feeds, which was almost hard to understand. Like, how does anyone make a mixed reality game without any camera access? But legit, that's just been the state of things. And so, if you or anybody has ever tried out a mixed reality app and thought it was kinda terrible and maybe gimmicky, well, now you know. It was basically made blindfolded and with a stone hammer. This is exactly why when Meta announced pass-through camera API at Connect last year, the whole room of devs started cheering. And here's how it works. Camera access uses the two RGB pass-through cameras on the front of the headset to provide an up to 1280 by 960p low latency feed that you can just mess with. On the user side, it's basically the exact same sort of camera access that smartphones and tablets have used for the past decade. If an application uses the cameras at all, a notification notification will pop up in the headset asking the user to allow the app to access the cameras. Again, the same as if you downloaded Snapchat on your phone and ran it for the first time. But what does it actually do? Well, right now, as of this video, applications or games that use camera access aren't allowed on the store just yet. However, Meta engineers and a few other people have released demos on GitHub that display some rough examples of how to use the camera access. From reading the brightness in the room, to weird shaders, to probably the place where this is most useful, a multi-object detection demo using a machine learning model ran locally on the Quest itself, which is exactly what I predict will fuel most of the craziest stuff in the coming years for camera access. Using custom AI models either on the headset or on a server somewhere, the combination between VR headsets, computer vision, and modern breakthroughs in machine learning are going to be absolutely insane. And while there's the obvious stuff like object detection, AI assistants that are contextually aware of your environment, like you might not remember where your keys are, but if you wear your headset enough, your AI assistant might, to facial recognition and real-time reality filters, like, well, Snapchat on steroids. And you know what? I guess when you put it this way, the Quest 3 and 3S did technically just get face tracking. It's just not for the user, it's for everyone else around in the room. Maybe we're about to see some very real-life gargoyles, which is a weird thought, but this also opens up all sorts of other weird possibilities, like bringing in real-world objects into VR environments or applications, or doing kind of the opposite, and using QR codes or trackers to track virtual objects in real space. And if you remember the 3DS and the little AR cards that it came with, kind of like that, except you don't have to hold the 3DS to see it, you just experience it naturally through your headset. And I also find this interesting because, at least on the back end, this could potentially change the way some games are developed fundamentally. And I'm not even just talking about mixed reality stuff. For example, the Quest, of course, has built-in hand tracking, but there are certain limitations that are imposed by the hand tracking system that OpenXR has and that Oculus has made. And really, using camera access, there's nothing stopping anyone from using this system to just detect gestures that operate entirely outside of Meta's current systems. And that's just a small example, but really, this opens up a lot of weird possibilities. And personally, I've been messing around with camera access as well, building out a few demos with my team, and again, you could just do some really cool stuff like today. We built out a very rudimentary photogrammetry application that totally works. You can turn anything in your room, or even your room itself, into a 3D model, which is really cool. We also built out a reality reflection probe or cube map, basically setting up a system so that virtual objects actually reflect your real environment just like they would in reality. And my personal favorite, I made some incredibly trippy shader experiments that take your view and modify it in insane ways. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it in VR. It's really cool. And these are all things that were entirely impossible just a couple weeks ago. And I like my little trippy things so much that I might even make that into a little app called Trippy Glasses or something. We'll see. And if you want to try these out for yourself, since I can't put this on the store yet, they'll all be on my Patreon this weekend, including the Trippy Glasses. So check that out if you're interested. I'll also post a couple of them in my Discord server, so you can join that as well. Patreon support really helps me make this content and support my team, and of course, make better content in VR software. The links are down below. And so, yeah, camera access is finally here. Now, obviously, I'm sure you can tell I'm pretty excited. There's a lot that this enables, and I hope that you can see that as well. I've referred to it before, but this is, in a lot of ways, the Pandora's box of virtual reality. And that box has just been opened. Now, it's entirely up to people to make cool stuff using it. It's basically an entire new medium and style of development that just dropped. That being said, there's a very real chance developers don't utilize camera access for a while, and there's essentially a lag time of a couple years before we see the fruit of this change. It's really hard to predict what people are going to do and what's going to stick. But even if it does take a while, the capability is there. Other headsets are going to follow or have already announced that they're following this. And we're gonna start seeing some weird stuff pop up no matter what, including from me. All right, so leave a question of the week down below. I'll either feature it in the next Newsday or I'll answer as many as I can myself. This week was incredibly exciting, and I think we're only getting started. And so join up in my Discord if you want a great VR community to hang out with, and thank you to my Patreon supporters for making videos like this possible. Don't forget to like this video if you loved it, subscribe if you want more of this, and hit that freaking bell if you just can't live without it. Much love, Thrill out.